Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Boy, I gotta tell you, we got a show for you today. I don't know that I've ever run across this in my career. I've only done 2,000 interviews, so what do I know? But these guys are something to behold. They're really special. We're going to be spending the entire hour with them, and I'm really looking forward to getting in deep to talk about who they are and what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing and stuff like that. But first, let's talk to Eric and find out what he's doing and why he's doing what he's doing.
Hey, good afternoon, Kevin. Happy Monday to you.
It's great to see you again, and it was raining all night. Is it going to rain all night tonight, too?
Absolutely.
Oh, goody.
Looks like showers, at least tonight. So probably be intermittent, but definitely looks like we got a wet week ahead of us. But things are warming up. So, there's that nice little winter trade-off, we're not freezing quite as badly. We're just trying to stay dry.
Exactly. And it's nice and warm. Not nice and warm, but it's warmer so that you don't have to worry about ice on the roadways in the morning.
That's always a good thing. 50 degrees last time I checked. So, mid-January, not too shabby.
I'll take it. Are you a comic book fan, by the way?
Yeah, I absolutely am.
We have got a couple of guys that are building a comic book that is more of a illustrated novel. I've never heard the term illustrated novel. Have you?
I assume that's something like a graphic novel. So yeah, definitely have.
Well, it's like a comic book that's 150 pages.
That's a graphic novel.
Yeah, indeed. And have you seen very many of them?
Oh yeah, tons of them.
Okay, that's why I guess I'm sheltered.
I mean, the difference is like comic books are usually like 30, 40 pages and they come out like monthly or bi-monthly, but a graphic novel or an illustrated novel would be like book length, like a regular novel would be, but it would all be illustrated with comic style pictures.
And I'll tell you, the illustrations are just phenomenal as I'm looking at them, as
cool.
well as the story. And so we're gonna go ahead and get into and talking to these guys, and they've written the book. It's called Planeta Blu and the Rise of Agoo. And
that rhymes.
I know. I bet you they planned it that way. And the two gentlemen, the writer is Tim Blessed. He is a hip hop artist who features and does positive work with the youth of America. I believe he's originally from Africa, and he's been here for a long time. And he's somewhere hooked up with a guy by the name of Michael LaRochia. I hope I said that right. And they have teamed up to form a team that is doing this book, and I just love the premise of it. So with that, let's go ahead and bring them on, and we'll talk to both of them. They're both in the same screen together. How you doing, guys?
Hey, we're doing great, man. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Oh, I got to tell you, I've been looking at your stuff for a while this morning, and it is just amazing. It's like a cross between Harry Potter and the Hunger Games and the Jungle Book. And did you guys plan it that way from the very beginning, or did it kind of just show up that way?
Yeah, it just kind of showed up that way because, this story started with, I'm a father telling bedtime stories to my kids. And I would just like freestyle this right off the top, just making up these silly stories. But as my kids got older, they got a little more intense, more action to it. And before I knew it, this story, first of all, was keeping them up. They weren't falling asleep. So I don't think the bedtime was the story was working too well. But the next day I found myself talking about it. My kids were very much into it. So I felt like, hey, this story is landing, right? It excited me. And so when I started writing the story, I was taking some of the characters right from my 9 to 5. So my 9 to 5 is working with youth. I've worked a number of nonprofits, Youth Build being one of them, Upward Bound being another one, 2 national organizations. So people out in Seattle might be aware of them, but I live in Massachusetts, right? And so these two organizations, what I did during the morning, at night, I did my hip hop thing, right? Rap, for those who aren't familiar, but conscious stuff, right? Positive stuff to uplift humanity is how I like to describe it. And so this story started with these characters, these youth that I knew, very familiar, like Angel. Anybody who knows Angel, they're not always angels, right? They're far from it at times, but good-hearted kids, but saying the wrong thing at the right time. Let's say it that way. And so I threw these kids in this this kind of adventure, this huge adventure where they get brought underwater. They gotta basically be the representatives for humanity, and they get put on trial for what human beings are doing to the environment, to planet, and to each other, to humanity. And so these kids really got to rise to the occasion, and along the way they get powers from the animals. So that's where the magic comes in. There's talking animals, but they're not singing.
They're being put on trial by the animals.
Yes.
So that's sort of a big premise of the book, where it's this underground society of animals that have been monitoring what's going on and bringing these kids in to say, like, well, now you guys have to answer for what you've done to, pollute the planet, do all these things to the different creatures of the earth. So, yeah.
And by the way, if you are listening to this and you are a young person, I'm sorry. We've screwed up the planet for you.
Mm-hmm. True.
But now it's going to be your job to fix our messes. And I apologize for that, but that's just the way it goes. But if you're working with people like you can help them understand the challenges ahead and be able to work with them. But I got to ask you, because one time years ago, I did a music show, and we had a hip hop artist on. Yep. And I had the board operator listen to the hip hop song that we were going to play, and he says, "I can't play that on the radio. We're not allowed to play that. That is not good." But you do a positive hip hop. How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I'm West African, so from Cape Verde Islands, and so music's a big part of my culture. And so when I immigrated here at 3 years old with my whole family, that music came, but I got caught up into what was evolving at that time. Hip hop was coming up, and it was coming through the box. Like I kid you not, the guy who was introducing me to this, his name was Bubba, and he was this Puerto Rican guy with a big
of
box.
course his name was Bubba.
Yeah. And he was going to New York, and he was bringing back tapes that he was recording off the air. And he was just like, listen, this is what's happening. And we were blown away by it. We were so energized by it. And what was great about it was I saw myself being part of this. But I was always brought up like a lot of the people in the neighborhood, right? We call it the hood, right? But I grew up in public housing, good people, right? Good families, right? So even though there was poverty around us and there might have been the street element in the streets, when the street lights went on, mom was like, get in the house, right? And so there was a lot of love, there was a lot of family, right? And so even though I was approaching this music and saying like, hey, I want to do this, I knew my mom was going to listen to it. I knew my sister was going to listen to it, right? And eventually I knew the youth was going to listen to it as I matured and became a youth advocate and activist. I knew that like, hey, I have a responsibility. And I'll tell you, Kevin, like, it happened to me one time. There was this one song. I was at a barbershop. as I was leaving, mom comes out with her daughter, who must have been like 7 years old, and she's like, "Oh, she's a big fan. She knows all of your rhymes." She starts going like word for word, like line for line, bar for bar, and I was just like, I hope I didn't say anything crazy in this one, because it's conscious hip hop, right? So most of it's positive, but some of it is, it speaks truth to power. Let me say it like that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But it was perfect. She loved it. I was like, thank goodness. And that reminded me, that was another reminder that, man, I can keep this thing clean. I can command the English language, even though English is my second language. I can use English very well at this point. I read the dictionary, right? Not all of it, but most of it. A lot of it. Yeah, which version?
Version.
But the point is that I could use words to be as descriptive as I want. And so I chose to keep my music clean for the most part, right? We're talking about 99%, 98% of the time. So,
well, there is a reality that has to go with everything, and in some of the kids' lives that you are working with, things are not roses and cupcakes. There is a lot of difficulty there, and stuff, and we're going to talk about that and the work you're doing with that. But I'm curious to know, you have an illustrator who is really, really talented. How did you two get together?
Yeah, well, it's crazy, man, because we both went to UMass Amherst. That's where we went to school, but at different times. But a friend of ours, a mutual friend, who's a friend of mine, and his neighbor knew I had written this novel. At that time, it was just words, right? It was long form. And she said, "Hey, I know this amazing illustrator. Do you want me to, give him the book?" And I was like, well, first of all, do you have something, right? Because you never know. Everybody knows someone who draws. Like, he draw. Anyway, she sent me his website, and I was just blown away. Just like you, when you saw the book, I was just like, wow, this is amazing illustrations. I got to meet this guy. Can you set up, an appointment? And then I'll let Mike tell the story from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was very cautious when my neighbors, like, my friend wrote a book, because just like everybody draws, everybody writes.
Yeah.
And I was like, just as a favor, I was like, sure, I'll meet with him. Let me see what's going on, just to be sort of polite. And, he came over, and, we hit it off almost instantly. And the premise of the book was, when he explained it to me, the energy he had when he explained it to me, I was sold on that. I was like, well, this seems, I'm always looking for projects that have this purpose and there's real content in it. So it's not just purely entertainment. There's something really happening in there and something you can take from it. So that was very clear from what he was saying and how he was describing everything. So we had this initial meeting. Like I said, we hit it off. I realized I had worked for his brother when I used to go to UMass Amherst. Just randomly found that out. And then we sort of agree, it was kind of intimidating, the size of the book, because it was, it's about 100 pages written or so. But when you convert that to a comic book, it's over 250 pages, because of how things are spread out and such. So there's always this sort of caution to be like, do I want to take on this massive project, and where's it going to go? But we had decided at that time I would do some concept work, and let's just see if I'm a good fit, if we work well together. Long story short, we do. And it was a really good experience. And we ended up, going from there and doing a Kickstarter. And then from the Kickstarter, we ended up working with Dark Horse. And now we're releasing this book from Dark Horse Comics. So. How
long does it take to illustrate a 250-page book?
Well, I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit here, because I'm, with this particular project, I handled the visual stuff. Tim had all of it's his story, it's his concept, but I did the drawings, the coloring, the lettering, and the layout. And I was able to accomplish that within a year during the pandemic. It was actually right when we went into quarantine. So that entire period, I just worked on this book. And, we had tried, I think we started working on it in the summer of 2020.
I think 19.
19, yeah.
And then 2020
and then we're trying to deliver the book in like early 2020. That was the goal. So, but yeah, so like I'd say about a year is to do the visual part.
I tell you, the pandemic had a lot of negatives, to it. But these are some of the stories that are coming out of the pandemic that are really, really positive.
Mhm.
So I really like, your premise. And also there is a message behind the book. Number one, the main character is African American. And that was by design and by choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, representation matters. As we know, everyone's story should be told. There's so many people on this planet, and we're all walking this interesting lives. And so, for me, when I started writing this, and this is before, let's say, Black Panther. Yeah, it was before the Black Panther movie, even before Moana, and Disney. Let's say. And so I started writing this, and I knew, I was like, man, I feel like there's not enough superheroes that look like my children, that look like some of the youth that I work with, and and eventually my daughter, who's now 5. And so I was like, man, I would love for all youth to see themselves. These two out of the 4 are Afro-Latinos. So one's Lares, the main heroine, and then you got her brother Angel. Then we got Tomé, who's Cape Verdean like myself. And then we got Tyler, who's actually a transplant from Indiana, and that was based off of loosely based off of a friend of mine who moved to New Bedford, Massachusetts from Indiana. And I was like, I got to throw this kid in there, And so he was actually, Mike, I don't know if I told you this, but he said he liked how handsome you made him look in the book. So,
and that's funny because I never even saw that guy.
Yeah. So you did a great job. Yes.
Well, I gotta tell you, it's really interesting to me that I drove a bus for 12 years.
Nice.
And I think it's really important that everyone has got heroes, be fictional or whatever, that look like them.
Yeah.
They're not always looking at somebody else and a different cultural background, but somebody who they can relate to. Do you find that that's really helpful in the work that you're doing?
Oh, totally. And Kevin, I always tell the story, man. I used to, I'm a Star Wars fan, so I'm a sci-fi guy, right? And comic book, geek and nerd. But I used to watch Star Wars like everyone else, and I'm just like, okay, well, like, who do I relate to? And Chewbacca was the closest one. Eventually Lando showed up, but he was kind of, at first he was kind of shy. He took out Han Solo, like, what's going on here? Lando, luckily he redeemed himself, you know what I'm saying? But the point is that there wasn't always that. And so for me to be able to put this in this book, and then to go, Mike and I have been able to go to many different schools, high schools, elementary schools, middle schools, and to present and to have these young people like see themselves, sometimes even read out loud some of the parts, because I don't do the usual like author reading, right? We'll ask for volunteers, they'll come up and they'll read some of the parts. So it's really, very engaging. The young people are connecting to it. And then some of them have already maybe read the book because the English teacher and a librarian had bought the book for them. And now, we're asking them like, what'd you think? They're like, oh, this is our favorite part, or I loved it. Or they say like, I see myself, like literally like saying that is, to me, it's like, it's a dream come true. And it's like, my work is done here, right? I feel like we made it, like we made it just in that. If we don't sell any other, which we want to sell many, many more, but if we don't sell any, at least that happened. And I was able to witness that. So the intention around why we wrote the book, why I wrote the book and Mike illustrated the book is manifested. And so that feels really great.
You should both be very proud of the work that you've done. Do you feel proud?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think, setting an intention to complete a big project like this, it feels so good to follow through with it and then see it kind of get out into the world and people respond to it and enjoy it as much as we enjoy it. That's such a great feeling.
Yeah. And we're big comic book heads, man. And so for me, like Dark Horse Comics was the, like, everyone likes Marvel and DC, but we like really like Dark Horse Comics, like they would put out like the different stories, the stories, if you think of, maybe, Marvel is ABC, and then you got, you know, NBC with DC Comics, and now here comes, you know, Netflix. So this is what like Dark Horse was to us. You know, they put out like thinking of movies for the audience out there, they put out like The Mask, Jim Carrey Mask, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or Hellboy. So like these very interesting different types of stories that you wouldn't, it's not like the usual superhero with capes, right? And so when they said like, yeah, you know, and this was a connection that Mike made, and I'll let him tell that story if we have time, or if you have time to ask that, is that, you know, for them to say like, yes, we want to publish this book, it once again a dream come true. Like we couldn't, it surpassed my expectations because originally we put it out as a Kickstarter independently, and now it's out there everywhere.
You know, one of the things that we talk about a lot on the show is that you are already great. And that if you understand that you're already great, you can follow your passion, and then you can live the adventure of a lifetime. I would submit that you guys already know who you are, and you're living the adventure of a lifetime. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Or you know, I feel like I'm definitely in the space to live that life. You know what I'm saying? Like my head is open and ready to, you know, and it feels good.
Well, I'm ready, Kevin, and you are great too. And I love it, man. I love the philosophy, and it's true, you know, like you are, you know, and I believe it or not, I say it in different words with the youth, which is like, hey, if you want to be a doctor, you already are a doctor. You already are a healer, right? If that's your passion, if that's what's in you already, then that's who you're just now gaining the skills to become that. And so I love that philosophy, and I remind my children and the youth I work with, like there's no can't in the language. Like you can do it if you believe in it, and then if you're willing to put the work behind it. And you know, we're living you know, a testament to that. And for us, it's like, hey, if we can do it, anyone can do it, because we believed in it, and we just work towards it. So there's the blueprint.
There are lots of youth that your message, especially in the book, and your message that you talk about on a daily basis, will really resonate with. And I hope that it will really resonate with them, because I can't imagine what it's like. So tell me, Tim, what is it like to be a kid growing up in today's world?
I'll be honest, Kevin, I don't know how they do it, man. The resiliency that these young people have to find out sometimes, like, you know, these kids will come in and they're smiling, they're joking, you know, regular kids. And then you find out some traumatic thing that had just happened to them, you know, like things from like a parent like committing suicide, right? Or, you know, one of their siblings, something happening to them, right? And I won't get too this way, but, you know, you can imagine like whatever, like the worst thing that could happen to a sibling, that happens, right? And then we go in there and we just, you know, love on them. That's the only thing, like just show them that we're there to listen to them. We're there to hear them, for them to be seen. And I have no problem saying, man, I love you. Like you got this. I believe in you. You know what I mean? We're here for you. We got your back. You know, people need to hear that. People need to be seen and heard, and know that there's a community of folks around them, people that care, that, you know, oftentimes it's our family, but some of these young people don't have family, you know, and it, you know, it's sad, but it's also inspiring to see how resilient they are, that they're willing to continue on. And, you know, that's always the message, like, man, keep going. You're going to make it, because just like you grew up in public housing, in the projects, you know, I did what like a lot of y'all did, you know, trying to figure it out, just like everybody else. We're trying to figure it out. But if you yourself can say, hey, I can just put my best foot forward, put that positive intention, and just walk through it, you know, it always gets better. It does, you know. I believe it, and I know it.
Well, and I've got to tell you, there are people that are wandering around, kids that you've come in contact with, that you've had an impact, a positive impact in their life, and they're going to come back to you, in 10, 20, 30 years, and they're going to say, Tim, that moment that you spent with me changed my life. How does that feel?
Yeah, that feels great. You know, with social media, sometimes I haven't heard from some of these young people, because I've been doing this for a while, right? Over 15 years. with young people. And because right out of college, so I was in college, my junior year is when I started working with youth and noticed that I loved it. And so I sometimes will just get a message, Kevin, just on, Instagram or Facebook or whatever, like, Tim, thank you so much for opening my eyes to these possibilities. Or, some of the posts, I'm just like liking their posts and I realize like, oh, this is, one of my students. And like now I'm liking it. And they're like, you were instrumental in my life or whatever the case is. And we know we're just a part of it, right? It takes a village. And I believe that. And we're lucky to be in a community now in Amherst that's the mentality, right? That's the thinking, the collective thinking in this community, which feels really good to know that like people are looking out for one another, that, the world isn't all that, it's pretty bad, right? We know, if you put on the news, but, when you think of your neighbors, if you have, we're blessed to have neighbors like we do that are looking out for each other. I know whenever I hear, Kevin, just probably like you, I hear someone say daddy, even if I know my kid, like I'll be maybe traveling, right? And I hear someone say daddy, I'm turning around, right? I'm ready to help that kid if that kid's in need. And I know that there's a lot of people out there with good hearts. That has to be. I want to believe it. And I do believe it because whenever there's any type of crisis, fires or earthquakes or whatever, people rise to the occasion. And that's what this story is about. These young people, here's this crazy cataclysmic thing that happened to them in the world, and they rise to the occasion. And I'll tell you, Kevin, like the main character is based off of a student of mine. And I was like, could this young woman, the character's named Lares, could she do this? Could she stand up in this council of animals when the whole world's, is at the brink? And could she deliver this speech, even though she's nervous, even though she's scared, even though she's ready to like puke? But she does it. She does it. She stands up and she just delivers it. And because she's speaking with such passion, the water, because they're underwater, right? They're in Atlantis, the water vibrates, right? And all the animals, they're like, oh, she speaks with truth. So that's like a magical moment. And we know, we've heard young people stand up and speak, or just people in general speak, where you get goosebumps, right? You feel it and you're like, oh, this is good and it's inspiring. And so that's what I wanted to deliver in this book. And with Mike's illustration, I'm so proud of what we came up with. And it's cool to hear the feedback from the young people.
Mike, I got to ask you, because there was a moment in time when your friend came to you and said, I got this guy, I know he's got a book. And would you like to illustrate? And it's like, I know you probably were a little not sure about it, but then when you found out more about Tim's story and his background and what he's doing, what was your response? Was it like, holy crap, I need to work with this guy? And by the way, I think that your relationship was brought together by somewhere else, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's sort of like if you've ever had the experience of like buying a house where you walk in and you're like, this is the house, there's something that is really obvious in that moment. And it was very clear that this is someone who is passionate about what they're doing. They have the energy to follow through with it. And those are the kinds of people you want around you all the time, no matter what, even if you're not working with them too. So I feel like over the years of my own experience and career with the arts and being doing a lot of freelance, and so working with a lot of different clients, you start to see that type of personality clearer when you run into them, because you can tell it's way more than just making a book. There's a movement, there's a real urgency and passion about it that's the kind of, like I said, you want to be around that energy all the time, because that's just going to motivate you in the things that you do in your life. And what worked out great was that, we worked so well together that Tim just really enjoyed seeing what I would show him of the book as I was working on it, so he really trusted my vision, and I trusted, his vision in terms of the story and how it was supposed to go. And it really was a fantastic collaboration. And I also believe too that there's sort of like, you sort of manifest these scenarios in your life. And I'm always looking to work with people and do exciting things. And, Tim is an amazing artist and performer and all around good person. And he's very inspiring. People will say once they meet him, that they, you know, he gives them that energy and makes them feel important. So it's so much fun being around this guy.
Yeah,
I'm being selfish. I just wanted to feel good about myself. So that's what it really came down to.
Well, what's awesome is we've become friends, right?
Yeah.
So we've gone from just being coworkers to now we go to gym together. You know, we're hanging out. You know, playing video games
That's
at
right.
night. You know, every once in a while. You know, which is great. You know, it feels good to, you know, go from a working relationship to actual, you know, bringing our families together and they're hanging out, you know, playing, which is great.
I've been lucky. I've had the opportunity to interview people that have walked down the red carpet
Yeah.
or have interviewed people in the red carpet. I predict for you that there's going to be a moment in time when you're going to be the lead on 60 Minutes because
Nice.
because of the work that you're doing, the impact that you're going to have on American youth and the people that you're going to help. And so that just came to me. I don't know why, but I really think so.
Appreciate that.
Hey, from your lips to, you know, to the powers, you know what I mean? For real, because, you know, we want that, right, Kevin. We want that to happen because we know, you know, I know what's in my heart. I feel I know it's in Mike's heart. And we just want to keep showcasing that, you know, and be that example. You know, there's some people out there who, you know, they don't want to be the role models. I'm like, hey, this is who I am. You know, I have to be that. I'm not perfect. You know, we all make mistakes, but at the end of the day, you know, we learn from that and we move on. We take responsibility, and integrity and authenticity matters. Like that's what we need more in this world. And now we have this fiction book to, you know, put it in this real world thing, but here's this fantasy, here's this magic that we need in this world. And so I would welcome that that prediction.
Well, and I also wanted to say this: it's expensive to do what you guys have done. And it continues to be expensive. And in order for you to be successful, you need support. And you need support from people out there, just mom and dads, just buying the book, just taking care of it. Let's talk about how they can buy the book, because that will support this mission. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't do you or it doesn't do humanity any good if it sits on a shelf. It needs to get out there, and you need to have as big a platform as possible to be able to do that. And that sadly takes money. I have the same issue that you do. It takes money to run the show, and but it's important because it will make the world a better place. So if somebody wants to, I don't know, throw checks at you or to help you, how do you get?
Yeah, throw them this way. Yes, I'm with you, Kevin. I'm with you.
It's just lit up. It's like, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
How does somebody help you?
It's abundant. Hey, man, so planetablu.com. So planet with an A. So Planeta and then BLU without the E.com. You'll find links for everywhere. So right now, because we have Dark Horse, Penguin, Random House distribution, you can go to Target and buy it. You could go to Walmart and buy it. You could go to Amazon, buy it. Barnes and Noble. Yeah. Anywhere you buy books, our book will be there. And so that's what's great about having this publisher. But you could go to the website, planetablu.com, start there, wherever you buy books. Pick it up. Yeah. Buy one for a friend. Buy one for a nephew or niece. They will love it.
Well, I was going to say, too, if you can't afford it, there are a lot of libraries that are buying it, too. So you can ask your library to get it as well. True. And a lot of the school libraries are doing that, too.
Or PGO. Like, we love going out there in the community. Mike said, I'm a performer. I love being out in front of an audience. Didn't always, right? I was like most people, a little scared of it at first, but I love being face-to-face with the people, the youth, and for them to, to connect on that level. So it's cool when the PGAs, PGOs, bring us in, hire us to come on in. And Mike tooted his own horn. I'll toot this horn that. What's awesome about this, Kevin, is when we go to a school, everyone is excited. The kids love it, right? They're so engaged. The teachers love it. The principals love it. The PGO parents that are in the audience, like making sure that they didn't squander their money. They love it, and so it's a win-win for everyone because we're there. Like, yeah, this is a dream come true. So
yeah, and also it's not very common to get comics and hip hop together in a school presentation that's
Oh, like
about
never?
writing, literacy, drawing, publishing, and just succeeding.
Yeah.
So it all just works very well in any audience.
I got to ask you, when you got the letter from Dark Horse Comics that said, "We love your work and we want to support it and we want to publish it," what kind of happy dance did you do?
Yeah.
I was like cautiously optimistic, though. You know what I'm saying? Because the way that came about was that I had a contact over at Dark Horse that I met in 2005. And over the years, I would just send work I was doing and stuff like that. And it wasn't until how many years, like 13 years later, 15 years later, that here's this finished book we did. What do you guys think? Do you think Dark Horse would do something like this? And it was almost sort of, I feel like when they first, I was like sort of unbelievable. It was sort of like, yeah, we'll do this. And it was like, really? It's like, are you sure? Are you sure? Can we like get this like really written down? And you know,
I was in this room like, yeah, like just screaming.
And your kids come running in and say, "Dad's having a heart attack. Oh no."
Yeah, that really happened. They're like, what happened? What happened? Like, yo, Dark Horse signed us. They're gonna sign us, you know. And so yeah, man, it was
so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, you guys, in Planeta Blu is the name of the book, and go to planetablu.com. It's like planet ablu.com, and go buy it and take the opportunity to really make a difference in some people's lives, because it's a really interesting and it's a good book. It's got a tremendous message. What do the kids think about it that you've had read it? How impactful has it been for them?
Yeah, well, they love that it's in their voice. They're like, these kids sound like like my friends, which is great because I've spent over 15 years with these young people. I currently I'm a residential director of a Better Chance home, right? And so I listen to these young people, and that's how I stay youthful. I hope I think, and so. But I listen to their talk. What's hip. Like nowadays is Riz, right? That's like swag. A little while ago, or you're cool, right? All these things to me is what's great about hip hop culture. It's like you always want to be in the hip, in the know. But youthful energy is beautiful, right? Because it's very optimistic. They haven't been tainted by anything. And so to hear these young people say, "Hey, this sounds like my friends and I, like I loved it. I see myself." To see, what was great was I went down to where was it? Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee. I was doing a mentor thing, and I gifted a book, and I was there for like a music related project, but I gifted a book, and this young woman who had a disability, right? She really wasn't talking most of the time. As soon as I gave that book to the class, she came up, she picked it up, Kevin, and she opened it up, and she was just like, devouring this book. And that felt so good to see how impactful this book was just instantly for these young people because of the illustrations that Mike created. Because as we know, when you see something beautiful, you're like, hey, is there content here? So you start reading, right? That's what I do whenever I pick up a comic book or whatever. I'm like, wow, this is a nice book. Let me see if there's any. You flip anywhere. And so when you flip and you start reading, you're like, oh, like they're saying something. Like there's something, it's like a song. Like, oh, this song has actually got something to it. Is what I've witnessed, young people respond to. And then to get just like, I got this text from this young person. I had done an assembly. He was like, man, your assembly was so impactful. I'm going to finish this year off strong because of your words, and I was just like, what first of all, I'm like, this is awesome. This is great. And I'm like, wow, this is gold, right? As I don't know, just a testament to the power of this book, which I got to be honest, Kevin, like, and artists will agree to this. When you just plug in, right? I feel like the story just kind of came through me. Like it came from another place. It came from the ethereal realm, right? And I just was like a conduit for it, right? I would often, close my eyes. I'm working on book 2. So I did this yesterday as I'm driving. I didn't close my eyes, but I was driving and I was imagining, like,
I'm not going to drive with you anymore.
Yeah. I don't have a self-driving car, but anyway, I was just imagine, you could see it in your mind's eye. You could see like how this plays out. And it's really fabulous, man. It's beautiful to be a part of this. I feel as much of a part of this journey, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, it's like I truly believe that, hey, you have these ideas, right? And we probably all have felt this. You have this great idea, and then a year or two, if you don't act on it, someone will. You know what I mean? That was my idea. Too late, buddy, because you were procrastinating or you were just relaxing and you didn't do nothing with that idea. And guess what? That idea is for the world. Like that idea needs to come to fruition. And so if it ain't us, it's someone else. So I'm glad it picked us.
Well, and it picked you, and the reason it picked you was because you didn't say no, and you did it anyway. And I truly believe you. Like I said, I've interviewed a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of artists and a lot of musicians and authors and hip hop art. Not a lot of hip hop artists because I can't air a lot of their stuff anyway. But it all comes from inspiration. That's just in a broad sense. I'll use that as inspiration.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, and I got a question to ask you, but first I got to tell you, you probably don't even know this song, but it was written in the mid '60s by a guy that you may know. That he woke up with the song in his head. He didn't know where it came from.
Yeah.
He had no earth. He walked around to his writing partner, whose name was John by chance, and some other folks, and he said, "Where is this song coming from? I've heard it someplace before," and everybody said, "No, never heard that song before." And so finally, after a couple of weeks, he owned it, and then he put words to it, and then they published it. The song's name was Michelle, was Yesterday, and it has now been copied over 3,000 times worldwide, and Paul McCartney and the Beatles. And it just can happen that way. But I got to ask you, are you going to write, since you're plugged into the youth of America?
Yeah.
And I'm a little older than you. I could be, as a matter of fact, I was talking to a 25-year-old yesterday, and she was talking about her grandpa. And I said, "How old is your grandpa?" And she said, "He's 64." And I said, "Oh, crap, I'm older than him." In any event, are you going to write a book that talks about the slang and the grammar that kids are using? Because I've heard this from a couple of
but it always changes, though.
I know. This young football player and on the Seahawks, and he was doing a conference, and he said, "Yeah, man, it was just dope." And I said, "Dope? Wait a minute, dope? That sounds like a drug thing that was." But then it dawned on me that dope. Yeah, I do. Okay, explain to me dope.
Yeah. Dope is dope. Dope is fresh. Dope is good. Dope is
awesome.
Dope is awesome. Yeah, it's rad. You know what I mean? It's all of those things.
It's the dopest thing I've ever seen.
It's the dopest thing. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's amazing. All of those things, that.
See, when I was growing up, it was called groovy. Hey man, that's really groovy.
The coolest thing I've ever seen. It's so
well, it's like when Michael Jackson bad. Oh, that's bad. You know what I mean? Like bad became good, right? Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. Run DMC said that, right? And it's true. It's. I mean, that's what's so beautiful about language. I actually like to throw out like words that I think are so funny, like nincompoop. So I think it's just hilarious. You know what I mean? And then there's there's others out there. I actually want to compile this, and I think I have a note here of all the words that are just like silly words that I'm like, where did that word come from? And does it have other origins? Because it's powerful. It's magical, honestly, and you talk about spelling, right? You're casting a spell. And I tell that to young people all the time, like, always speak highly of yourself, speak highly of others, right? Speak what you want to happen into existence. Never call yourself dumb or stupid. Like, no, I'm organized. I am organized. I am powerful. I am, I'm healthy. Even when you're sick, like, I'm healthy, right? These things have power to them, because once you put them out there into the world, there's a frequency, there's a vibration. And, scientists are studying that all the time. And we know because we hear, when you're watching a movie and there's nothing crazy happen, but if they put very spooky music or just that intense music, a drama, right? You're like, what's going to happen? Is something going to happen? A thriller, right? They do that all the time. So we know that this works in music, and it works with words. And so, yeah, like, even to your partner, I try to always tell my wife all the time, like, hey, dear, hey, my love, to my daughter, always greet him in that way. Even when, she's not feeling like a deer lately, she's mad at me or whatever, but I'm like,
yes, dear.
Yes, dear. But it's true. I mean, those words matter, and you can change a mood, similar to if you get called outside of your name, right? Someone insults you, like, so I'm like, hey, I have no problem giving compliments and, and sharing, like, hey, you like that, especially with youth, like, man, those are nice kicks. Those are some nice sneakers, right? Oh man, where'd you get that t-shirt? That's fresh, that's dope. That's a dope shirt right there. I've ever seen, right? But people respond to that, and that's cool, especially when it's authentic. People know when you're just like, yeah, you're just trying to like, no, I'm actually trying to, like, connect with you. That's what we're trying to do. Have a connection, and let's co-create. Let's co-create this reality. Let's have good times, good vibes. Positive. It's that positivity, man. I'm all about it, Kevin.
Yes, and I got to ask you, I interviewed a guy just the other day. He's from the Highlands of Scotland, and he said, "Do you know what the term 'the whole 9 yards' comes from? Have you ever heard that term?"
Yeah, I have heard that term, but I don't know the origin. No, do you?
I know the term, but yeah.
It takes 9 yards to make a kilt. 9 yards of material to make a kilt.
Really? Wow, that's why. Yeah.
So that's why they don't wear underwear underneath that.
Oh,
so that's
because the whole 9 yards.
Just learned two things here, Kevin.
Well, he also told me that when the Scottish military goes on leave, that before they leave the barracks, there is a mirror on the floor and a man standing there. So they have to inspect the kilt to make sure that nobody's out of uniform, which means they're wearing underwear. I didn't know that one either, but it's probably more information than you need.
That
TMI, Kevin.
The saying, pull out all the stops.
I've heard the saying, have no idea where it came from.
Apparently it has to do with an organ. So in, those big organs like Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
And when at my wedding, the organist, when we were meeting, he was like, "That's where that comes from. We got to pull out like all these things to play, and that's where it comes from."
Nice.
Yeah.
See, you that's the third book, but I want you to do Planeta Blu, the second one, because I think the first one's going to be really successful. How long has it been out now?
Yeah,
November 21st.
November 21st. So yeah, we're like 2 months in.
Yeah.
Well, and you won't have gotten any information from them yet. They or maybe you have. I don't know.
We haven't. We have a meeting. We have a meeting scheduled. We're scheduling.
It's on the books.
It's on the books. Like, because we want to know, right? It's interesting because we're getting feedback from people all the time, right? That's what's great. One great thing about social media is that you get people responding all the time, saying like, "Oh, I bought your book. This is great. I bought it for this person or that person." And so, but yeah, we want to know some data. we need some figures. We want to know when that check's coming in.
The metrics.
Yeah. Well, no matter what happens, you guys have done some extraordinary work here. And I like to tell authors that when it could be 5 years from now, it could be 10 years from now, it could be in a used bookstore, someone is going to pick up your work and it's going to change their life because they're going to find such value in it. And that is, I can't think of a higher calling than that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're excited. We're excited for that. And I do want to let you all know, be on the lookout. We're doing an audiobook. So the audiobook's not out, but later on this year, 2024, had some of the youth that I actually, Lares is being voiced by Jay Lee, who was the inspiration for the main character. And so it's gonna be fascinating, you know, and what's great is to have these young people come in. And you know, like a lot of people, like this is part of their dream, right? It's great when your dream connects with other people's dream, where they like, I always wanted to voice over something or do something like this, right? And now they get to do it, and you get to hear from their parents who are like, you know, sending a message through my son who's their age, like, hey, tell your father I said thank you for, you know, having, you know, my daughter on this project, because once again, it's just a ripple effect. And so yeah, we're looking forward to that to release. And like you said, man, for someone to grab it at the right time, to find something that is meaningful in their lives, that to say like, yeah, you can get over this adversity, this challenge. Because one thing, and not to spoil it, but this is not a tragedy, right? This book is not a tragedy. There's that like we're gonna win, y'all. The kids are gonna win. They got not without sacrifice, right? And it's a journey, not without pain, not without a lot of you know, different things happening that might even bring a tear to your eyes, but you know, they have to, because we need a win, right, Kevin? We need a win out there.
Well, you ain't kidding.
Yeah, man, we do.
And it's better for all of us if we all work together to achieve that together, rather than deciding to be ruled by hate, division, and fear. If we can get rid of that, and your book speaks to that to a great degree, and I really appreciate that. Sadly, we're going to run out of time, my friends, but what I'd like to do now is to set myself aside, and Michael, we'll start with you. I would love for you to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know about anything.
About anything. Oh my goodness. I was thinking while we were talking earlier, as an artist, as a creative person, one of the things, I'm not one of those people that likes to give advice, okay? Because I feel like everybody has their own situation, circumstance, and it's rarely ever the same for everybody. However, saying that, I do feel like one of the things that I've learned in my career is that you can't overstate how important patience is with yourself and what you're doing. And that being patient with yourself, being honest with yourself at the same time is really a way to getting to whatever you consider success is. So that's what I have to say, Tim.
Nice. Awesome, man.
I didn't give you a lot of time to think about your stuff.
Yeah, no. For me, it's about peace, man. Peace is the way. Like, seek peace. Try to find ways to find peace in your life, whatever brings about peace for you. And let's, you know, I'd love for us to start thinking that maybe we can make war obsolete in the future, man. Let's find ways to really come together, unity, as the whole world, man. Let's start with your community, but start with yourself, right? Try to make peace within yourself, forgive yourself, be honest with yourself, and then, you know, go on from there with family and friends and community. Yeah, peace is the way.
Dang, I wish I had said that. That was really good. both of you guys are just extraordinary human beings, and I couldn't be prouder to have you on Positive Talk, because you exemplify everything that we're trying to do, and I'm so pleased to be able to give you this platform. And because when you go down the red carpet and then are doing your acceptance speech at the Oscars after this is put into the movie,
we'll say, Kevin,
we're sending you an invite, man.
I can't wear a tux, but I'll come down. Yeah. So
Yes.
but I want you back, and I know we're booked for another show, so I'm really looking forward to that as well. You guys, you make my heart warm, and the nice thing is that you're really working to help a lot of people that have been damaged to get out of where they were, so that they can live the life that they truly deserve, and that we all deserve to be great. And it's great when we can help other people. You guys, at the next show, well, I got 2 minutes. I got to ask you, where did you guys come from? Did you get dropped from or get tapped on the head by an angel or something?
Yeah, Hey man, I think my mom Vicencia. That's it. Mom Dukes.
I came from a huge Italian family, and
Yeah.
and a lot of love and support was poured into me, and I think that's helped me be who I am today. So
I'm willing to bet that every Sunday the whole family got together to have a great big meal together. 'Cause it's the Italian way, isn't it?
well, we were all spread out, but when we had events, it was we'd have to rent a VFW so we could all be together, that kind of thing, you know. And
Nice.
those were the old days. Sadly, it's not like that because the families have gone, the families got bigger, and we couldn't keep doing it. But I was lucky to have grown up that way. Yeah.
I wish everybody had that opportunity, but if you don't, become a mentor, become a coach,
Yeah.
become a speaker, become an author.
Yes.
Get the word out about something positive for people, because the closest people that I had in my life growing up were coaches,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they understood who I was
Mhm.
and they treated me like an equal. And I know that you do that with the kids you work with.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
it.
would love to, down the road, I would love for you, the young lady who's going to voice the lead,
Yeah.
bring her on the dang show. I would love
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
that will be something that she'll be able to hold for a long time, as well as the book. And who knows, she could be the next Swift or whatever her name is.
Yeah. Yeah, Swifty with Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much. Go to their website, which is Planety. Give me the website.
Planeta Blu. Yeah.
Planeta Blu. Was it just
PlanetaBlue.com. Yes.
PlanetaBlue.com. Buy the book. Thank you, gentlemen, and we'll see you the next time that you're on. And by the way, everybody, as you've heard on this show today, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. We'll see you Wednesday at 4.
Peace.